So the methods in an abstract is very much like when you think about putting the background and the purpose together in an abstract. It's a condensed version of what you've done. And you have to think very carefully about this. You're trying to summarize all of the key things that have happened. You're trying to inform the reader about who your participants were. You're trying to inform the reader about the kind of the metrics that were undertaken. You're trying to inform the reader about the basic procedures. But you can't tell them everything. You can't show them everything. Remember, go back to the basic principle of what an abstract is about. It's about giving the reader the gist of what this study is going to be about and what's coming. It's setting the scene for them. So we have to prioritise the kind of information that we're going to show them. So when you're thinking about putting this part of the abstract together, remember, it is only an overview. So you're not having to show everything. So for example, there is no need to give the make and manufacturer of pieces of equipment that have been used. There is no need to report, unless it's fundamental to the study design, there's no need to report things like laboratory conditions. But there are key things. Remember, in the title, you will have informed the reader about who the population is. So the reader will want to know who the participants were. So basic things like age. They'll want to know things like attributes. So for example, when we refer to things like attributes, it might be, for example, were they male, were they female? It might be, were they of a particular ethnic group? It might be that they were physically active or physically inactive, or they might have COPD, or they may be obese. Or it may just be that they're sports and exercise science students. Then think about the protocols. So again, particularly when you've got complex studies, you can't show the reader everything that you've done. So you have to condense that down. So what was undertaken? So for example, what was the test? How many trials were undertaken, for example, if they did repeats? And for example, maybe, how long was taken between each trial? But you're trying to give the reader the gist of what has been undertaken. You're not trying to give them an in-depth replication of the study. And then the bit that most people forget about in an abstract, but it is still fundamentally part of the method, which is, well, how's the data been reported? So you need to summarise very briefly the kind of statistical analyses that were carried out. So again, if you've done quite complex analysis, let's say you've done ANOVAs and you've done limits of agreement and you've done technical error measurements, can you really show all of those to the reader? You have to think about the prioritising. So let's have a look at what this might look like in an example of an abstract. Okay, so if we look here we can see in our method, we've got a summary of the participants. Who were the participants? Remember what we said, you've got to describe the kind of the attributes and the numbers. So it tells us there are 42 in this study, 42 participants, but notice that they've been defined for us. So we've got something about their attributes. They were physically active participants. And remember that the title in this example was about comparison between males and females. Again, if you go to the purpose above, was there a difference between sexes? So here it's saying, well, actually, look, there were 11 females and 31 males. So it's just informing the reader how that has been broken down. And then we've summarised the key attributes of our participants. So we've given ages, we've given heights, we've given masses. Now, they may not be the values that you have to report. It might be that you want to report skin folds, or maybe that VO2 max is an important attribute. But those are kind of the basic attributes that you report. And remember that we're trying to summarise the group. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about kind of summarising data, go to one of the other little videos on summarising data. And then finally, we've got some actual protocol. So we've actually got a little bit about the study design. So it's informing the reader, actually, how was this study designed? Well, it was designed in a crossover designed study. So they get the understanding that they've done something more than once. They've changed over what they've done. They've done 2 assessments of grip, and it then informs the reader how those 2 assessments were carried out in quite simple overviews. So it's telling us, by using the crossover design, it's very cleverly informing the reader about the kind of the analysis that's going to take place. So this is what I was referring to previously. You can't write out, well, they did ANOVAs and they did this. But a well-informed reader will understand that by referring to a crossover designed study, they will automatically have an idea about the kind of the analysis that was taking place. So think very carefully about the way in which you write your method so that somebody can follow this. It's not about repeating what you've done. That will come from the main body. But it's about having, again, a gist of what has been undertaken.